Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the Voice of Reason. Today, March 3rd, 2022, we are continuing our coverage of the ongoing civil war taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia. And yes, the fighting still continues in the fractured former state of Ethiopia. Today, we continue to get reports of ongoing activity by the Oromo Liberation Army fighting for the independence of Oromia taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia. We've seen further video evidence that more Abiy loyalist forces have indeed been captured by the Oromo Liberation Army as they continue their anaconda-type strategy upon the federalized forces of the Abiy loyalist formations. And again, the areas that you can see in yellow are the areas that have been captured or are currently occupied by the Oromo Liberation Army. And again, these are both cities and areas. The boxes indicate areas of countryside that are controlled by the Oromo Liberation Army, and I shouldn't say occupied, as it is their home grounds. But that fight continues unabated in the Oromia region, again, because of what is happening in other places in the world, such as Ukraine. And Kim Kardashian's fingernails getting painted, the conflict that is taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia takes a backseat to some of those other issues, unfortunately, and that's just the way it's been throughout the conflict, even when it was the largest conflict taking place on the planet at the time. And in fact, we've heard about up to 2% of the Ukrainian population being displaced. Well, we can say with fairly accurate factual evidence that up to 30% of the people in the Tigray region have been displaced, while there's been 2 million Ukrainians fleeing the confines of Ukraine towards Poland, Hungary, the Slovakia. Up to 2.5 million Tigrayans have had to flee areas of Tigray in the ensuing conflict that is taking place. Within the fighting that is taking place inside in the Tigray region, obviously, it is not as intense as what it once was in terms of some of the fighting we observed during the occupation of the Tigray region and the punitive invasion that took place when the TDF launched a counterattack deep into the Amhara region. So what's interesting right now is what is going to happen in western Tigray, and that is this area that is west of the Tekeze River. We do understand that the TDF continues to deploy and ready itself for further operations in western Tigray. And another bit of information that would appear to be occurring is that the Abiy loyalist formations, the federal forces, seem to have withdrawn from western Tigray, and the main occupying forces that continue to be deployed in western Tigray are Amhara regional paramilitary forces and elements of that organization known as FANO, in conjunction with Eritrean army forces as well, continue to be deployed in the western Tigray area of operations. The Eritreans are predominantly being used in the city of Humera, located in the northwest quadrant of western Tigray. In other areas, we continue to see a security operation by the Tigrayan Defense Forces along its shared border with the Afar region. That, for all intents and purposes, has been wrapped up with the defeat of the Afar regional militias that were encamped along the Tigray border with the assistance of the Eritrean army. So the big question right now is, why has the ENDF or the Abiy loyalist formations withdrawn from Western Tigray? And with that being said, that would be the last vestige of a war goal that was achieved by the Abiy loyalist formations. Once they completely withdraw from Western Tigray, this invasion was for naught. They would then hold no territory that had prior been designated as territory controlled by the Tigrayan Defense Forces or the Tigray region. Furthermore, the TDF still occupies small enclaves of the Amhara region and continue to have somewhat of small buffer zones near the Amharan Tigray regional border. But right now we want to watch very, very closely what's happening in Western Tigray. And again, the main reason on why those Abiy loyalist forces withdrew from Western Tigray is, in fact, because of the issues and challenges that they are now facing with the Oromo Liberation Army throughout the Oromia region. That battle that is taking place, that war that is taking place between the centralized government of Abiy Ahmed and his Prosperity Party against the Oromo Liberation Army seeking self-determination for the Oromo people in the Oromia region is really costing the Abiy loyalist formations tremendously. From my understanding, they are barely holding on in many areas of the countryside, in many of the even the larger towns in the Oromia region are at risk of quite possibly being besieged and or overrun by the Oromo Liberation Army. And in fact, some areas and some arterial routes into Addis Ababa are still currently cut off by the Oromo Liberation Army and its ongoing efforts to quite possibly topple the regime of Abiy Ahmed. And other reports we continue to hear about, as well as the improvements that are taking place within the Tigrayan Defense Forces. Again, at the start of the war, it was not a very large force. It consisted of some regional special police forces and some part-time volunteers. And then once the war kicked off, we saw quite a bit of defections from the federal forces, from especially the Northern Command, jumped ship and came over to the Tigrayan Defense Forces. And now we're starting to see, after the large-scale operations and mobilizations that took place with the invasions of the Amhara region, we are now seeing more of a professionalized force being developed and implemented by the Tigray region. And again, it would appear, for all intents and purposes, the Tigray region seeks to have a fully equipped professional military force under its direct control within the Tigray region. And obviously, it is de facto independent. While there has not been a plebiscite and a vote to declare independence, the Tigray region is fundamentally independent from the rest of the former state of Ethiopia. And that is why it is attempting to retake Western Tigray, where it can have access to an international border to bring in supplies, equipment, food, medicine, and circumvent this anaconda strategy that the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, or more or less the Abiy loyalist formations, are implementing against the Tigray region in conjunction with the despotic regime of Isaias Afwerki in Eritrea. And I know there's a lot of press against Vladimir Putin, but I would highly encourage you, if you have not delved into Isaias Afwerki of Eritrea. Again, Vladimir Putin is a Girl Scout when it comes to a comparison between him and Isaias Afwerki. This is an individual who buries people in the middle of the desert alive, and has them basically removed from the historical record in doing so. But again, that is the news news right now, we anticipate at some point in the very near future, as it is already occurring, there may be a large-scale operation by the TDF into Western Tigray to evict those Amhara regional forces from the Western Tigray area, and then eventually secure an international border with the Sudan. We're going to continue to monitor and report and bring you more news and information about the ongoing conflict taking place in the Horn of Africa, while most other media outlets simply will not report. Again, because the fingernail polish on Kim Kardashian's nails are probably more important than the plight of millions of people. Again, more to come very, very soon. Have a good day, everybody.